Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Charleston Daily Mail's NFL Draft event. I am Derek Redd, the Marshall beat writer for the Charleston Daily Mail. To the far right of me is Mike Casazza, the West Virginia beat writer for the Charleston Daily Mail. And in between us is one of the leading rushers in West Virginia University history. He's a Weir High School graduate up in Weirton. He shared the Kennedy Award with J.R. House in 1999, and he is number 9 on the career rushing list at WVU, 2,770 yards. He was a 7th-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, also played for the Atlanta Falcons, and right now he is Assistant Director of Football Operations for WVU. We have Quincy Wilson here. Quincy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everybody out there?
Now, Quincy, on days like this, this is a weekend. This is a big weekend for you too. Is it in terms of what you do within the WVU football program?
Yeah, it's huge because I think of a guy like Kevin. I remember he came on his visit, meeting his mom, meeting his parents, and you see the potential. I mean, you'll probably hear that word about 1,000 times in the draft today is potential. And he was a guy who had a little bit of success his first year and then continued to have a great year this year, and then look where this got him, top 10 pick.
Now, you have the experience that these guys covet. You've been there. What do you say to these guys? How do you kind of guide these guys through this process when it's their turn?
I think the biggest thing for them, it's all different. So, you take a guy like Kevin White, who everyone can see is a top first-round pick, but it's different for a guy like Mario Alford or Quentin Spain or those guys, because I can't have the same mindset as Kevin. Kevin's getting endorsement deals. He's on SportsCenter. He's been on every show across America, and when you're not having stuff like that, it's kind of frustrating because I know how I was. I thought I had a great senior year. I know I was going to be a mid-round pick. I had So I see it from the other side. I didn't get to experience this, side of Kevin, but I did in a way because my father played in the NFL and I knew how that stuff works. So I can give those guys a unique perspective, where, hey, try to get invited to the combine, get your all-stars, and just remember that tonight and the next 2 days is a chance to get into the NFL. Whether you're the first pick or the 255, you're going to get a chance to play, and then it becomes on you. And then you make your own way in the NFL.
Quincy, you've been in this process in a bunch of different ways now, but can you describe the nerves when you're a player waiting versus your role now where people should understand you're kind of like a confidant for a lot of these players, and you're like a big brother to a lot of them, and it's hard to sit back knowing what guys like Lewinsky and Alford are going through.
Yeah, it's funny because I texted all those guys this morning, and I just told them, hey, enjoy the next 3 days.
Right.
Regardless of if you go top 10 or if you go in the 7th round, because no one could ever take away from you, this opportunity. It's for me, I got drafted in the 7th round, and that was one of the greatest days of my life, just seeing your name go across on the ticker. Now they got pregame shows and they're going to show all kinds of highlights and all this crazy stuff. So it's a lot different. The media attention on it is a lot different, but regardless, enjoy this moment because you worked so hard. I mean, these guys, they've been 6-7 days a week, training for this one night and the next 2 nights. So and that's why I've just told them, just enjoy it because, you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. We can predict, we can mock draft, we can do everything we can, but until they pull that card up and the team picks somebody, you don't know what's going on.
Obviously, Kevin's the guy a lot of people talk about. It's not just him, and I'm guilty of this, and other people are too, of talking about his dedication, his work ethic. But if you look at all the players who are going to be drafted, similar stories. Mark's a junior college guy, switched positions, became a good player. Mario went from inside to outside. Dream has hung around from a junior college to West Virginia. You've got a whole bunch of stories, and it goes to basically the program developing players too. You're on the inside, and you've been a player again.
Yeah.
What goes on in there? How do they take players and just constantly keep them going, even when it seems like maybe a position change could be bad, but it could be good? When there's a wall there, they do find a way to get through it and make the best of it.
Well, I think it becomes, on the player.
Okay.
As a Kevin White, if I catch whatever it was his last year, if I catch 45 balls, do I have the potential to catch 90 and or 114 and be a Biletnikoff finalist. Is it in you to do that? Because when you go to Division I, whether it's Marshall, whether it's West Virginia, all the tools are there, weight room, facilities, all that stuff. So now it becomes, what am I going to do to get to the next level, if that's what you want to do? And we have a lot of things in place for these guys, to achieve that. Now, is it guaranteed? No. Stuff happens, injuries, life happens. But like I said, Kevin's the perfect example of a guy that had potential, saw he had potential, worked his butt off, and now has a chance to provide for his family for generations.
Right.
How intense is the evaluation process for the draft prospect, the pro days, the combine, the interviews? What's that like for these guys?
Well, the thing I didn't realize when you're playing is these scouts start scouting you your junior year. So there's a regional scout or advanced scout that comes, says, hey, what do you think of Quincy Wilson? Does he have potential to be drafted? So you get that evaluation. You go through your senior year, they'll come again. Sometimes they'll come twice. You get another evaluation. So there's already a book on you pretty much before your senior year is even up. You go through all-star games. So if you're lucky enough to get, there's a little more all-star games than there were when I played. But if you get a chance to play in the all-star game, there's another chance, or as a job interview, they say. You have the combine, which they only invite, I think, 300 or so guys. So you have that. Then you have your pro day. Then you have workouts for teams. So you're talking a 4-month process where, it's every day you're on your P's and Q's and you're trying to learn. So a lot of people can handle it. As you see, guys are, some people, they can do it. Some people fail drug tests. Some people do things. It's you're under a microscope. And like I said, when you're 22, 23 years old, you probably don't realize that. And that's why it's good to be in that position now, so I can tell a Dreamer Smith or a Kevin White, like, hey, you don't need to be downtown. You got something bigger here in the next 6 months that's ahead of you, and if you start building that thing in there now, it's not as much of a surprise when the stuff comes up to them.
Mike was mentioning position changes, and he was, I guess you were talking position changes within college. Now, I'll take the example of a guy like James Rouse at Marshall, where he's played tackle for his entirety, but people are looking at him as more of an end. But there's no end film on him. So you're kind of would be looking at him and evaluating him based on, well, we think he could fit, where you don't really have any evidence where he could. In your experience in guys you've known, how much of a monkey wrench does that throw into the process when people may look at you as well, you're a linebacker here, but we think you're a safety. You're a tackle here, but we think you're an end.
Right. Well, and again, that's where, that 4-month process comes in. If I'm a slot receiver and I'm 6'5" and I've only caught one route, the NFL is going to say, well, we like to see you outside. Can you do that? And then that becomes like your next challenge. Like, all right, I'm going to do everything I can to get to that next level. So a lot of people, and like I said, it works for some people. The guy from Auburn, who's the quarterback, he's trying to be a corner, and he hasn't played corner since junior college. Mm-hmm. So can he make that transition? So again, it just becomes on the athlete. Like, am I able to do that? Some people can. A lot of times they don't like to change guys in position now. I know. The mobile quarterback, it's evolved. I know, for instance, a good buddy of mine, Rasheed Marshall. Like, if he was coming out, this in the draft now, they would look at him as a quarterback. They wouldn't say athlete. So, the NFL's evolved, and it's a chance for these guys. If they do ask you to change, you're talking about a chance to to make the league, and so you'll do anything you can.
Speaking of evolution here, it was a while where running backs were devalued and not getting taken in the first round. You might get 2 taken tonight in the first round, too. Right. As a former, that must make you feel pretty good. And why are we back here? It seems like it makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, it's like in cycles. If you talk to anybody, there hasn't been a draftable first-round guy. We're talking about the top league in the world. And, they don't draft, guy that's halfway, average. And I think the biggest thing has been, can we get that value in a later pick? Because the NFL is about business, it's a money business. So are we going to pay this guy this, or can we get him for the same value at a lower pick? But then you have a guy like Todd Gurley, or you have a guy like Melvin Gordon, where these guys it's just so plain on simple. and then, Gurley, outside of him getting his knee, he'd have been a top 10 guy we're talking about. So we're just talking about these guys from 15 to 32 still, which, it's kind of crazy to think about, but they're first round guys. But think about where these guys could go: Baltimore, Dallas. Teams that are already established. Usually, your bad teams are picking early, so these guys actually get a chance to not only get picked in the first round, but go to a great team. So I'm sure they're excited and can't wait to hear what their name's called.
One more for you here. You just finished spring practice. It seems, I could probably say this, that the program's in as good a situation as far as the roster and experience that it's been for a long, long time. And you've been putting out pretty good pro players for a while. Mm-hmm. If you're back here a year from now, are we talking about a number of players again? And who might be in this conversation from West Virginia in whatever city for draft night?
The first name that pops up to me is Carl Joseph. I think he's probably our top prospect, if there's such a thing. But you got guys like KJ Dillon. You got guys like Shaquille Pettaway. We have guys that are going to transfer, and you never know. But that's the great thing about it, though. Those guys see Kevin, and they guys see them guys, and now, am I that next guy that's going to make that leap? Because I had the potential, because I've seen it. With the Big 12 Conference. You get a chance of exposure, and that's the biggest reason why they moved it, from the Big East. So, if you can play well and do well in our league, it's almost like ACC basketball. If you play good in ACC, he must be an NBA guy because he plays well. And it's the same thing with the SEC football. Well, he must be great because he did it in the SEC. So, perception is everything, but confidence is also a big thing too. So, I would love to see. Multiple, like kind of a couple years back when we had Stedman and Gino and Tavon, all within those first 3 rounds.
Yeah.